right, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Michael, host of the Smoke Pit podcast. And you can see, join with me again, man, Jake, a.k.a. Snap. We're going to call him Snap for the rest of the show just because we got another Jake in the house. But Snap, man, how you doing? How's life been treating you?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be COVID free and in my new house. Getting through all the life changes and everything. Happy to be back and dive right in with some great guests like our man Jake here, and just talk about life, talk about the service, and everything in between.
That's what I'm talking about, man. I see your dog, dude. Cute dog. Siberian Husky, right?
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about. All right. The man, the myth, the legend, here himself, Jake Rodriguez. Man, how you doing?
What's up, brother? Thanks for having me on. First Mo, I appreciate you guys, taking me on. I'm not really sure what to expect, but hey, man, send what you got. I hear you doing big things out here. Snap, nice to meet you, brother. Hope we get to collab more in the future for sure.
Well, I can tell you right now, it's gonna be a vibe, man. We're just gonna sit back, talk military stuff, and then we could just talk about anything. I don't know if you play any games, but we can talk about some games too. Just cut into it. But we'll see as it comes up in conversation. First of all, let's get this out of the way. Air Force, right? 9 years, and as I believe you got out, correct?
I did, yes. I did 9 years active duty, just under 9 years. I was active duty my whole time, so just got out 2 months ago. May 16th with my DOS. So I'm still brand new to the civilian world.
Minot, right? I know you specifically from Minot. We served in Minot together, but we spoke on the phone the other day. You said prior to Minot, you were LE for what? You said your first 6 years, correct?
Yes, sir. As soon as I graduated my tech school from San Antonio over at Lackland Air Force Base, I got my first station up in Tinker Air Force Base, which is in Oklahoma City. And the main mission there is LE. They do have a security side as well. But from what I know, it's still just connected in the same flight. So everybody goes to guard mount together, and then they separate into whatever posts you have on that day, depending if you're going to be LE or if you're going to be security. So yeah, I mean, that's all I knew prior to going to Minot was, just straight LE. That's where I learned. That's what I loved, at the time. So moving into Minot was definitely a huge change for me because I didn't know the security side at all. All I know is that what they said LE was, has a lot of gray area to it, a lot of common thinking that you have to do, critical thinking. Whereas if they're saying, go to Minot and everything's black and white, it's, you look at the reg and if they do this, then you do that. And that's pretty much it, and then you won the case in every way that you came about, a problem or anything. So yeah, I did LE and Oklahoma and then security side up here in Minot.
Okay. So the experience overall for LE, how did you like that? And do you prefer LE over the black and white of nukes, or kind of where's your standpoint on that? I'm curious.
Man, I really don't know which one I enjoy more. I would say security would be like my best bet as far as saying that I liked it, just because of the job that I had up here in Minot. But when it came down to LE, I enjoyed it for a lot of reasons. Reason being is because when a situation happens, and you're in charge, you're the on-scene commander. And so it was really easy for me, with leadership skills that I was taught within the military to say, hey, these are the things that needs to happen. And I called the shots. Whereas if security is, someone else is calling the shots, but I still have to be there in person and kind of just relay communication wise. So I would say, I think security was probably a little bit more of my favorite realm. Because of the job that I had. So being TRF up here in Minot was definitely one of the highest points of my career. That's for sure.
Okay. And speaking of the TRF experience, man, can you kind of cut into kind of some of the stuff that you did? You don't have to talk about all of it, but just kind of what you found to be cooler and what you can kind of take with you and be like, I didn't expect that I was even going to do that, when you went out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was in Oklahoma City, I was trying to get orders out of it. I was there for a little over 6 years. So I was like, man, I got to get out of this place. And, a lot of people came from Minot, a lot of NCOs that were, that are now really, really good friends. But what they were saying was, there's this tier up section up there and they're all hard hitters, and they're super physically capable, that all they do is, work out, train, and they go out on their missions. And then, you kind of left alone at that point. So I didn't know what TRF was literally until maybe 3 months before I even got there or got up into Minot. And so originally I came up to be fifth side. So I was fifth side and I was going straight from LE, Oklahoma City to LE Minot. And, I just wasn't having it. I was like, that's not going to happen. I want to get away from LE. Not that I didn't like LE a whole lot. It's just I knew there wasn't an LE mission that was really big up here. And I want to do something different with my career. So then I pulled some strings. I talked to the right people. I ended up getting on the TRF section. And I didn't really know a whole lot about it going into the TRF section. I had no idea what it was, tactical response force. What do these guys do? The only thing that I knew is that they flew helicopters, or I flew in helicopters as aerial security. And that was it. I was like, for transportation, what's going on? I had no idea what to expect, but all I knew is that these guys, had the same mindset that I did. And so becoming, I was an NCO walking into a whole realm with younger airmen who knew a lot, way more than I did. And so, I had to take a step back and realize, hey, this is not my realm anymore. And I have to sit back and be the student. So joining in on TRF, you have to go through the selection process, and then you get, welcomed at the team. And then you start doing a lot of the things that, TRF did, which was, so what we did was, you would trip out for 7 days and then you'd have 6 days off. So, and we lived on base. So it was at the dorms on Minot Air Force Base. But I think, having our own schedule, deciding when we train, everybody on 90% of the team worked out, on the daily basis. So it was the camaraderie was insane. You live with these guys, you train with these guys, you eat and sleep with these guys, and they're your roommates. And, it took away, hey, I'm the supervisor and, I'm the troop. It was like, hey, we're on a team, we're a family basis here. And we have one mission when we go out and we have to complete that mission and come back. And whereas if LE was like, you go to guard mount, you do what you're supposed to for 12 hours, you go home, no one says anything, and nothing matters after that. So, coming in and, the way I like to say is, it was very much a deployment matter. The mindset was, everybody does everything together. We go to the chow hall together, we go to the gym together, we go work together, and we come back together, that type of thing. And that's one of the camaraderie was definitely one of the things that I like most about being in the TRF section, despite being LA prior to that.
I distinctly remember TRF. I think you were a part of the old squad though, especially the squad that you went through the indoc, right?
Yeah.
Where the indoc was, some might say a little bit tougher, a little bit more, I guess, grab worthy. I don't know how you personally feel on it, but I prefer the older method where they really did kind of, beat you in for about a day. And then you're at the point where you're like, okay, yeah, like this kind of weeded out the people who were just there because they're like, sure, maybe I'll try something new. Or the people that are like, yeah, I really want this. I want to be a part of this team. I want to come into this team and I want to do my part. And it just kind of kept those, I felt personally, it kind of kept those people grounded to it, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah, if you work towards something, it makes you want to be a part of that team even more. I do like the indoctrination part. We call it OC, orientation course, for 21 days. And we say that the first 3 or 4 days are the worst. You're just getting beat up a whole lot. Your body's taking a beating for long days at a time. Not only that, but you're trying to learn the job as well at the same time. And so, weeding out those individuals who, don't have the correct mindset or the right mindset that they thought they had, it definitely brought us closer together just because, you struggle together and then you come to be together as a team and a family. And then you're welcomed into a whole new realm of people that have the same exact mindset. And it's a lot of alpha, it's a lot of hard hitters and, they're all alpha male types and, it's so definitely clashed, right? So
I remember that.
You can see the clash, but at the end of the day, we can mess with each other, but as soon as someone else from outside messes with us, then we all turn a blind eye and we're like, all right, well, what's going on? We take care of each other.
Yeah, of course. What I really want to hit on too is And I think I'm going to ask both you and Snap this question because I think it's good. But you were talking about coming in, right? You were the new NCO, and you were surrounded by a bunch of airmen that knew a lot more than you, right? So this is a time for you to kind of humble yourself. So, Snap, can you refresh me with Navy? Correct?
Yeah.
You're still in?
No, I'm
No.
out.
Okay. What did you get out as?
I got out as a E5.
E5. So that is
Yeah.
NCO in Navy, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so for both you, as an NCO coming into, and I don't know if you had this happen at all, Snap, but going into, I'm sure you did, but going into a new unit and being like, hey, man, a lot of these airmen know everything that I don't. I'm going to ask, Jake, I'm going to ask you first, kind of, what did you do specifically to kind of not fit in, but kind of come in and I guess, yeah, sure. Let's go with fit in. Like, what's the best thing that helped you out going into a new unit as an NCO?
Well, it was everything but easy for me. That I'll tell you that for sure. Reason being is because I've most of these airmen that I automatically became a leader to them, and they saw me as the new guy right away. These guys are subject matter experts and they know exactly what their job is because they've done it for the past 2 or 3 years. This is all they've done, and some of the guys that have been in that field for 3 years and that's all they knew. They didn't know LE, they didn't know the missile field, they knew TRF. That's all they knew. And those are the guys who were the trainers. So me coming in as an NCO, no, I've had troops prior. I've helped individuals get to different areas of where they need to be, and I just knew, I've done real world stuff, and I've done it consistently. Not to say that these guys haven't done real world stuff. It's just they haven't been challenged in that area, and so with deployments and different types of training from tier training, pre-deployment training, post training, all types of things. I was an instructor. I knew what to do, but the way these guys operated was completely different than anything that I had known. And it's kind of hard for you to spend 7 years of your career learning something specifically and you just know it like the back of your hand. And these guys, these airmen, these senior airmen and A1Cs are like, we don't do that here. We do this.
Yeah.
And it's very irritating to me because I'm just like, man, like I'm good at what I do. I know I'm good at what I do. But for some reason, I feel like now I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And it's very irritating because this is the only thing that I've known. And these kids are, 20, 21 years old. And some were a little bit older, but the majority were younger kids. And so I had to take a step back and clean slate, and say, hey, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing. I got to take a step back, and I had to apologize to my team. And I said, I'm sorry that I feel like, I want to be that trainer, but right now I'm going to take a step back. And for like 2 months, I became the student. I fell into the gaps. I started to realize, hey, I told the guys, as soon as we go into training, I'm not an NCO. Take off the stripe. Boom. Here you go. I'm new. I just came from tech school. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I had to learn their ways of how they did things compared to a different. And granted, I've been a part several different squadrons, several different trainings, and I was good. I was one of the top, students in that area. But when it came to TRF guys and how they managed everything, like I said, I had to take that step back. And so taking off the rank helped me tremendously. And I gained that respect from the troops. And then once I knew what I was doing, I already knew how to train. I was got to know how to figure out what I'm training on. And then, so when you guys came into, then I was more competent in that area.
Okay. I like that, man. Snap. What do you got?
Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head there, Jake. So both my experience and what I've seen in other NCOs around me in my field, a lot of what it comes down to is when you are the NCO, so you come in with the assumed responsibility, but you don't have the skill or the knowledge to match that, and you have people working under you have that. You have to rely on their knowledge and their skill to get the job done, and you just have to try to learn everything you can as fast as you can, and you kind of assume an administrative role at that point where you're doing the paperwork, you're making sure everything lines up and is where it's supposed to be, even though you don't necessarily know all the little nitty gritty things that go into that. So you're trying to be as supportive as you can while you're learning everything. So it's not to say that an NCO job is necessarily harder than being the most boots on the ground guy. It's a different beast altogether. because you're trying to, as the new NCO, you're trying to learn everything and do it and manage it. And it's just
and
different.
teach it,
And teach it and teach it.
Yeah, I that was a culture shock for me, like right off the bat, and I kind of used the term "pretend like I know what I'm doing," and that was a improper way for me to state that. It's not me pretending like I know everything. It's more or less like, hey, when it comes time for me to have to teach somebody, I need to act like I know what I'm doing. You can't really teach somebody effectively by going, I've never done this, but watch me do this and do as I say. Like that's not how it works, right? So it's like that quick brush of the information, like, and then you're like, okay, now I'm gonna go teach it, kind of thing. And I've always found that to be very interesting as of late. And then in other NCOs, that's why I like to ask that. And Jake, I asked you this question literally a couple days ago too. The other question I have, and I think it's gonna be a good question for both of you, is when you first put on Staff Sergeant, right? When you go from, E5, we'll go E5. That bridge between E4 and E5 is always super strange, especially when you're dealing with, I feel like it was a little bit tougher too, especially with TRF, because you're all like-minded. You're all in that same, like, play hard mentality and just kind of want to have a good time. So I kind of want to ask, like, both of you, kind of, how did you get away from or how did you create that barrier of like, look, I'm cool, I'm an NCO, but you bridge the gap between friend and NCO, and where it's like, hey, I'm your mentor, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, like, you report to me, and that's kind of how this works. I kind of want to get both your inputs. Jake, if you don't mind going first.
Yeah, for sure. So that's definitely one of the hardships, when you do make rank, because now you're no longer you can't be, a friend to everybody, and when it comes down to people that you were friends with, and then they're like, oh, like now you're acting fake because you're a supervisor, and it's like not that I'm acting fake, it's just now that I'm put in a leadership position. Now we have certain things that we have to get done, and it's not like, come to work, sit at your post and go home. There's a whole lot more added to that. And, you start to really figure out who your friends are, because of, if you're my friend, you're not going to put me in a hard position. You're not going to be disrespectful. There's a time and a place for everything. And if your friends are there with you, let's say you just made rank and you're a supervisor now, your friends aren't going to be those people who are going to put you in a tight spot. They're going to support you every single way, because they know, even though they're, may not be a supervisor like you are, they do understand that, hey, like if I'm a supervisor and one of my troops says something, and I not that I want to clap back at it super quick, but I just want to say, hey, like, that's not what we do right now. Later on, when we're off work and we're doing our thing and we're chilling together and we're friends and we're doing our thing, cool. Then we can bullshit BS and do whatever we have to, have fun. But when we're at work and, there's leadership and stuff, that they see a different quality in me. I have to have that different, realm now. I got to be a supervisor. I have to be that person. And it's not you being fake. It's just you being professional. It's you being professional in that realm and saying, hey, like, I have a different job than you do right now. And it's, when we turn in our weapons and we go home and we hop on the game or whatever, then cool. I'm not going to be offended. I'm not going to tell you to, speak a certain way or live a certain way, and if I can help you in any kind of lifestyle realm, then I'm going to do that, depending on, my experience. So other than that, that's pretty much what I got.
Okay. By you, Snap.
Yeah, I agree completely with what you said, especially talking about people calling you fake, or if they call you like two-faced or something like that, because it has nothing to do with like you. I mean, I have to say there are some people who kind of have that air about them, but in general, it comes down to it's not just you having a different job. It's like you said, the supervisors and the people above you. There's a different expectation now. Your job has now changed. You have different responsibilities and expectations that they are looking at you. Like, yesterday you were, literally right next to me, listening to someone talk, and now you're standing in front of me trying to, give me this task or that task, tell me what to do. It's like, yeah, but it's the same thing. Now I'm sitting in a different meeting with people above me who are telling me to relay this information. So it's a whole other beast entirely when you're talking about these things, because you're, instead of being at the bottom of the chain, no, now you're in the middle. You are part of the chain. And you actually have to, like you said, kind of establish that difference in the workplace, and you can still have those relationships outside of it, but when it comes to being at work, at some point you kind of have to establish, when we're at work, this is just how it has to be. And if I have to tell you to do something and you just got to do it, you can be pissed at me, you can not like our work relationship, but it is what it is.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the job needs to get done, right? As long as everybody's doing what they need to do, right? We can keep all those cogwheels moving, and the job gets done, and things are somewhat smooth sailing, right? But yeah, that's kind of, I asked a question for, myself, of course, because I'm a newer NCO. And then of course, anybody else that's watching this, right, that's maybe getting ready to put on rank. I think some of that information is really going to be helpful for them. But it's definitely one of the things that I'm going through right now, just kind of finding my way as an NCO. And I've always had NCO qualities. I've always had the way I choose to operate, and how I've always been kind of like, not really a dad figure, but kind of like how was everybody doing? Has everybody ate kind of thing? You know what I'm saying? That's always been one of my things. But now it's also trying to get out of that senior airman, like, I'm cool with everybody, it didn't matter who you were. And now it's like, okay, now I gotta watch my tongue, I gotta watch the way I approach situations, right? And well, now that we got another extra stripe, right, now we can kind of I guess you could say tackle situations a little bit better, instead of being like, hey, do what your stripes can handle. Now it's kind of like, hey man, I can actually be a little bit more of a voice. So when somebody says something, you can kind of really come in there and be like, hey, you know what? Yeah, we're going to shut that shit down real quick, and that's my favorite part.
I like what you're saying there, because once you win the troops over, you've won everything.
Yeah.
Because like I was saying the other day, if the troops come to you specifically, you're doing something right. It's that moment where if you're a supervisor and your troops stop coming to you for things, that's when you failed as a supervisor.
Man, I've heard that. Yeah, that's a really good one. I'm so glad you said it. This is so true.
I mean, if the airmen have problems, they're on the front lines, and not to say that supervisors are always on the back lines, and hanging out, behind the wire, but the people up front are, the people that you need to watch out for the most. And it's so irritating to me sometimes when I hear, because my girlfriend's still active duty. So, and she's a supervisor. So, it kind of sucks when she tells me how back office isn't helping the people who are on flight. And I'm like, it's not that that the back office has to work for flight. It's not the other way around. The flight does not work for back office. The office is there to say, hey, what do you guys need, and how can I help your guys? And because you guys are doing the mission. We're just back here on the support. We're your backbone. But if you have a weak backbone, then your whole flight's going to go to, just going to go straight down. It's going to decrease in value, and you don't want that. But you becoming a new NCO, you can speak up for those guys now instead of being that senior airman. And when you go into a back office, you talk to a random master sergeant that's now all of a sudden in charge of operations. He has no idea who you are. But when you were a senior airman, he doesn't care who you are and what you've done for your troops. All he sees is senior airman. He doesn't see the person that you are. And I know you as a person. And so I know that you have those qualities, those supervisor qualities, and you can help the younger airmen. So now it's up to you to decide, hey, what matters most to you? And then how can you help the people around you while doing those things? So if it doesn't help people around you, then you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, I think the number one thing for me too, I know that wasn't necessarily a question geared to me, but I'm going to just answer it anyway. But my favorite thing, man, is just to make sure I can get people to strive for greatness, and I want to make sure, first of all, I want to know why you joined. Okay, that's what helps me. If you join because of schooling, or if you join to be an Army sniper, or you join, Air Force sniper, if you join to do all this cool stuff, I want to know why you joined so I can treat you as such. Now, if you tell me you're joined for college, I'm not going to be like, okay, cool, paper pusher. Like, we'll treat you like this. No, I just want to know where your mindset's at. I'm not going to treat you like some big badass, like, hey man, why aren't you showing up 20 minutes early? Why aren't you putting in the extra push-ups? No, it's kind of like, hey, let's get you squared away, and then let's get you into that schooling. Let's make sure you got the basis first, and then we can get you into that schooling, versus trying to treat somebody who's there to do the job but wants to then get out, and go pursue schooling. Why are we treating them like a sniper when that's not what they're there for? We treat the snipers as snipers, but we need to be versatile and be able to treat them for schooling, or if they're here to become an instructor, there's all these different things. My favorite thing is being an instructor. That's where I want to be. So if I find someone that wants to do it, I'm like, let's go. And I want to treat you as such, right? But I want to be able to get my airmen to where they want to go. That's what my favorite thing and what my biggest thing is ever going to be as an NCO is I want to be able to be a part of that piece. Not to take credit, but to be like, hey, man, you want to go here? Let me try to get you towards there instead of saying, whatever, just say your post brief so I can get out of here. No, that's not what it's about. My next question for you guys. Do you guys still have troops that hit you up?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Every
What about
day.
you, Snap?
Yeah, I do. I have a few people that reach out on occasion. Depends on, some of them are still in, some of them are, friends that have been out for a while.
Yeah. That's one of those things. I think that's the coolest thing. We had one of our guys in Minot in the training office. He told us a really nice emotional story about what it means to be an NCO for him, what it means to do what he does. And at the same time, he's like, I still have troops that call me. And he started getting real emotional. He's like, I have this one troop that I've like basically just kind of really helped out and saved his life. And it started getting super emotional. I'm like, that's so beautiful, man, to be able to be, that kind of an individual for somebody because everybody needs it. We needed it. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure we all have that one NCO that we look at as a mentor and we're like, man, like this individual either kept me in or kept me fighting that next day. That kind of like, hey, man, strap them boots up, man. You're good. Let's tear it up. We'll tear it up. Tomorrow we come at it. We tackle it again kind of thing, Snap, did you go on any deployments? I know you guys kind of say that's your kind of deployments, right? In overseas. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm kind of going to gear this towards both of you, but Jake, you kind of talked about deployments being one of your obstacles, and I kind of want to touch on that for a brief second. So how many deployments have you been on?
I've been on 2. So the first one I went to was in 2015. We ended up going to Al Jaber, Kuwait, and so I was only there for 6 weeks. So I ended up forwarding, and then I ended up going to Kabul, Afghanistan for a little over 7 months. And then my second one was in 2019. I went to the Deed in Qatar, and I was there for 7 months. Yeah.
The Deed.
Yeah.
Now, Snap, you how many got on your belt?
Let's see. I gotta think about it. Yeah, so it's like 4-month deployments, twice a year, like 5 years, so like 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm. Okay, my whole career I was deployed. That's right. You're right. You were on the seas.
But again, ours are a little different. It's like 4 months out, like 6 weeks in, 4 months out again, and then like 4 months in, and then just like.
See, I can get behind that though for a little bit. Like I could do a solid year of that action and just kind of like really just get a piece of that. I would love to get a piece of that,
But in the Navy, it's different from ship to ship. They have different kind of rotations or kind of like op tempos, depending. Because I was forward deployed out off the coast of Japan, so we had a specific op tempo. There are other ships that'll go out for like 8 or 9 months with like small breaks in between, and then they'll be in for like 10 months and then be out for So where it's a little more spread out. Ours was a lot more one after another with like quick repairs and stuff, and then right back out.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Overall, our ships, does that fit on the protection level? Are you familiar with the protection levels?
Are you referring to like the force protection level or
like PO 1, 2, 3, kind of like the biggest and baddest of what we have, and the kind of if this kind of whatever.
I'm not sure.
I'm trying to figure out where ships lie. I'm
not sure, especially because there's so many different classes and categories of ships. Yeah, I feel like they just cannot be even categories together. So I imagine they got to be spread out.
Okay, because I was going to ask,
especially because they're always deployed and operating in different areas. Because we have aircraft carriers, which is what I served on, that are constantly circling different areas. We have submarines all over the place, constantly deployed in different areas. We have battleships. We have LHVs. Everything. All over the place.
Sheesh, I don't even want to walk outside now, man. I feel protected, dude.
They're everywhere.
Okay. So me and Jake, right? We were working with nuclear weapon systems, right? Everybody in the world fucking knows. Everybody's tracking, right? Now I'm curious. Have you ever been on a ship that has that type of weapon system on it? I don't know how it necessarily works, but have you ever been on a ship like that?
No. So those are traditionally on the SSBNs, the ballistic submarines, is
Oh,
typically what
okay.
carries those kinds of things. Um, Closest I got to that, I mean, the aircraft carriers. What I worked on was the aircraft carriers. I worked on the nuclear support systems
Mm.
that run the ship and the power and everything.
I guess so. Okay, yeah. The reason I wanted to ask too is because you mentioned op tempo, so I wanted to know
Yeah.
kind of like the tempo difference between kind of like your regular ship stuff. I sound so fucking uneducated
No, no, probably.
between the regular ship stuff and then something that's dealing with those higher tier weapon systems that we have. Kind of what was the tempo difference between that,
So I'll
if
say,
any? Yeah.
yeah. So I'll say that the biggest change as far as like op tempo, and we see it is because like once you're on the deployment, like
Mm-hmm.
the tempo is set. That's like your main operating level, and you're just
Mm-hmm.
kind of you're in your routine, and you're just like day to day is mostly the same, but you're just
Yeah.
kind of you're going, you're doing your thing, and then it kind of slows down a bit once you come back from the deployment, and it slows for maybe a month or two. Some people get some leave, and things kind of like settle out. Your maintenance
Mm-hmm.
starts getting scheduled to get any repairs that need to get done, and that all gets planned out. And then it starts picking up again. You're getting all your repairs done. You're maintaining all your equipment. You're making sure everything's upkept, and next deployment's on the horizon. So everything's just like starts picking back up, picking back up. You
Yeah.
start doing trial runs and everything, and sea trials, which is basically like a test run of a couple weeks where you go out to sea, make sure everything works, you come back, and then you fully onload for the deployment. So
Mm.
it's just kind of you ramp up and you go, and then it kind of like drops off, and then it
Yeah.
just starts to ramp back up again.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I think Jake can attest to this, but like Minot's kind of its own beast, right? All of the bases that deal with the way Minot deals its stuff, a little bit different of a beast. And I find Minot to be one of those places where if you get everything done, you're given more to do. And if you don't get that done, they're kind of like, why didn't you do it? But then you go to another base and it's kind of like, yeah, hey man, I don't know. You can write a ticket if you want. If you don't, you do a couple post checks and you're like, wait a hot second, man. What am I to do? Like when I came here, man, my phase one, my in doc for Minot was like, hey, man, bang, 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 bang. This is what we do. This is how you do it. Let me see that you can do it. We need to verify that you can do it. And then we'll put you on a flight. And then on flight, you're going to QC, boom, boom, boom. Now, don't get me wrong. Same thing for here, right? You need to get QC'd in a certain amount of time. But I get here and they're like, hey, go do CBTs for like 6 hours. And I was like, fucking what? Are you kidding me? And what I struggle with, and it's everywhere, don't get me wrong. But me being first of all, new NCO, second of all, only knowing nukes, right? Nukes troop. I come in hot and heavy, ready to learn some LE material. And they're like, we just need you to do some CBTs for the next week or so. And I'm there for like 2 weeks and I know nothing about LE. But you know what I do know? Fucking sear, dude. I know how to eat grubs out of the fucking dirt all over again, but I do not know how to pull somebody over and issue a ticket. I was like, this is weird. But it's just that kind of like tempo, right? And the way people kind of treat things in different areas. But things are starting to ramp up, especially being the new NCO. So I'm learning how to be a supervisor at the same time, learning how to do LE, how to do all of these certain positions in order to be able to, do my job effectively. So I kind of like the tempo right now, finally. But my Knots tempo, I don't know if you've ever been like in that kind of realm. You know what I'm saying?
I think a big thing between commands and stations and things like that, I think a lot of what it comes down to is what exactly is the mission
Yeah.
for your command or your op and everything like that. So like for example, like when I was on my ship, the mission was the big picture mission. It was we're out there, we're patrolling, we're making sure we got eyes where we need them, and we got presence and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
I was gonna say
And
presence, huh?
then
Yeah.
yeah, and then I did a few years at a maintenance facility where we did repairs on submarines, but that was hand in hand with civilians and shipyard personnel, which is a whole other thing. And like they have the mission of like let's get the submarines fixed and get them back out there, but they have all this civilian side like administrative red tape. So their focus is completely different. So instead of like let's throw a patch on there and get this machine running. It's like, oh, there's an issue. All right, hold on. Let's send off a report about it. Have some guys look into it, and they'll get back to you in a day or two. And it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? And like the tempo and the focus is completely different. And
what do I do now? I don't know. Do it. What?
Like what's the next thing then? If I can't fix it yet, what do I have to do now?
Let me just look busy real quick for you.
Yeah. It's just completely different.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna switch gears here a little bit. Jake, I'm gonna read this off, and I want you to kind of explain it a little bit more for me. But you stated, learn as much as you can to fight battles being fought against you that you know nothing about, and then always be prepared. These kind of sound like mottos. These kind of sound like something that you've kind of built for yourself and kind of live around. Is this true? Am I kind of on the right track here?
Yeah, so you're pretty much on the point, right? So depending on how much you know about whatever subject that you're learning in, or whatever occupation that you're doing at that time, be the best at it. Be the absolute best, and know more than the people who think they know a lot, right? Because there's always somebody out there. There's always a competition. There's always somebody that's going to say something and say you're wrong, even though you probably didn't do anything at all, and they're just going to automatically say you're wrong for doing this. But if you know how do I say it? Like the regulations, like the back of your hand, you can't be touched. If you know that something is right and you know what's right completely, you can't be touched, because it's like, okay, well, why does it say this written here? And you're telling me I'm wrong, but you're trying to, give me paperwork, or you're trying to say, hey, this is incorrect, but you have proof of why, you do things a certain way. But off of that quote itself, the way I like to see it is, the military is they do just enough to keep you comfortable, keep you in. And there's a lot of miscommunication. There's a lot of misguidance when it comes down to being knowledgeable on, the things that are accessible to you. I knew troops that were in the military for almost 2 years and didn't know that they had TA that'll pay for up to a master's degree. And they're like, what? I didn't even know that. Or the Air Force COOL system that'll give you up to $4,500 per your career to do whatever you want, and doesn't have to be pertaining to your education. And having VA benefits, and figuring out, that there's so many things out there that the Air Force just doesn't tell you, or the military as a whole doesn't tell you. I'm not sure what the Navy has, but I'm sure, the Navy has certain things that'll help individuals, if they decide that, hey, maybe the military isn't for me after their 4 years. And it's up to the supervisor to help them, right? And they always say, like, hey, do your own research. And it's kind of hard to do your own research when you don't know what you don't know at that point. Like, what are you supposed to do at that point? So becoming a leader is figuring out the right questions to ask, compared to the person and the individual themselves. So if you're knowledgeable on what's going on, and right now you're the first line up to your troops at that point, you have to be that supervisor. You have to be that leader. Same thing in the Air Force as it is in the Navy. Once you become that NCO, you become that second nature. When kids are coming in from tech school, they see you as a staff sergeant. They don't know you as a senior airman, right? But you've been through so much, and you've done 5-6 years active duty, and so you're kind of expected to know those things. But it seems like NCOs are lacking in that area. They're not. They may know the information, but they're not relaying the information. So people are scared. Troops are scared because they're like, whatever my NCO says, and that's it. That's how it goes. And it shouldn't be that way. We should have an open arm and say, hey, if you have something, let me know. And if I can't figure it out, I will. If I don't know it, I will figure it out for you. And we're going to fight this battle together. And that's pretty much where that comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's big for this, as a supervisor, to make sure that your guys not only know about the resources, they know how to get to them, how to access those resources and use them. And if you have if your command or your mission and everything, your tempo has enough time built into it that you can, give people that time to access and reach out to those resources, fantastic. And it's just unfortunate there are some commands and some things that just you don't have that bandwidth to let people use it, and people lose out on it because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're mentioning this too, because it kind of went into it kind of what I was saying earlier about the whole talking to your troops and understanding what they actually want, or at least I'm a firm believer. We have ACAs, SNAP. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but it's called an Airman Comprehensive Assessment. It's where you get to sit down with your troop and talk about expectations, both from you and that individual, and then the Air Force and that individual, what they want, what they expect, and what the Air Force expects, right? Like, you need to learn this material in a certain amount of time. You need to get out of upgrade training and start getting into your 5 level, your 7 level, stuff like that, right? But understanding, like,
for us, it's part of our evaluation process. We have periodic midterm counselings that to talk about expectations and goals and things like that, as well as like goals both in and out of service, as far as like life and things like that.
And then our airmen are actually able to then come back around and say, hey, I'd like to do a feedback, just so we can be tracking on how far I've accomplished since our last HCA or sit down. Do you guys do the same thing? Are your folks able to just sit down and say, hey, can we do a feedback right now? Kind of see where I'm at?
I don't think, at least in my experience, there hasn't really been a formal method of feedback, but I have not really had any senior staff that I've interacted with where that wasn't an option. They as far as resources, they've usually been very forthcoming and helpful in that avenue.
Okay. I was going to say too, especially right now, I don't know why, it seems like a lot of NCOs really aren't getting down with their airmen, really sitting down with their folks and just being like, hey, spending that one-on-one time with their individuals. And it seems as though like the ACA isn't really necessarily a formal thing anymore. It's kind of like that one time for you to just be able to sit with your troop and be like, hey, what do you got? What do you want? What do you expect? And this is what I expect from you. And it's really cool. But what I was trying to get at too, the schooling, right? So you mentioned the TA program and schooling, right, Jake? So understanding that your individual wants to go into schooling. Cool. Sweet. If you would never mention anything, we probably wouldn't have mentioned anything either, because schooling's starting to kind of go down too. It's kind of like this weird thing, but it depends on where you're at. Some places like mine not really push schooling heavy, and I should have done it. I will be the first one to admit it. I should have gotten into schooling when I was there. Way too much time to not do it, right? But who was I? I was an airman that said, nah, screw you, I'm going to do what I want, right? But if you don't know that your troop wants to get into schooling, then there's probably never really that true opportunity, depending on how you are as a supervisor, to sit down and say, hey, man, by the way, did you know that the Air Force will pay for the schooling for you, and they will take care of this and this and this for you, instead of treating this kid like he wants to be some kind of sniper and never really being able to give him that opportunity and tell him, hey, man, by the way, just know. So then he goes 4 years in the Air Force going, I was here to do some schooling, but I don't know what the hell's going on. I think I'm just going to get out and go to college. Meanwhile, he could have had those 4 years with some schooling definitely under his belt. You know what I'm saying? That's just kind of how I feel about that personally. But I like that. I like all of that. I want to ask you one more question, and then I kind of want Snap to take the mic here. So getting out, right? Talking about that transition between military and civilian, and I'm willing to bet that you were probably working on a lot of this prior to you getting out, because we had a ex-K9, Air Force K9, talking about how he started up his whole program for K9s and thing like that, or stuff like that, right? So you're a gym rat, dude. And if people know you, they know, right? There's no not knowing that you're a gym rat. So obviously having a good gym routine is super healthy, right? And I feel like personally everybody should, right? You take care of that body, your body will take care of you. But I'm not going to steal your thunder. I'm going to let you kind of run this show right now. But can you talk about how you built up what is called Rod Squad, and when it came into fruition, and then when you really started building it for me?
So,
and
so
what it is.
So what's that?
I said, and what it is. So do a whole plug it, man. Plug it.
So so I'm the founder of Rod Squad Training. What we do is we online personal training individuals across the world. Now, how I started this was, I was 135 pounds soaking wet, 2015, went on my first deployment. And after that, I just decided, hey, this is going to be a thing for me. It got me out of, certain mental headspaces that I didn't want to be in. And so from then on forth, when I started actually gaining progress in my journey, of course, I started getting in people telling me, hey, can you give me a hand? Can you help me out? Can you show me what you've done? And, of course, I knew what I did, but I didn't know how to help anybody else. So, and this, this goes back to 2015. I didn't know what Rod Squad was at this point, not until my second deployment in 2019. But of course, I just loved the gym. I loved, and people started coming to me, and I was like, hey, I just want to help as many people as I can. So I ended up doing, Word documents, Adobe PDFs, and, coming up with simple meal plans, learning more about macronutrients, workouts, how they can affect different people, not only physically, but psychologically as well, right? In the health realm, and deciding, hey, maybe I can, help more people than than people that are just right next to me. Maybe I can transform my social media to tell other people about, hey, like I'm doing this now. How can I help you? And I trained people for a little over 2 years for free, completely free. And what I did is I wanted to see somebody, and I want to say, hey, what are your goals? What are your short-term goals, long-term goals? And what do you have available to you? And how can I help you get to that next point? And so I helped over 100 people. And I was like, I got to the point where I was good at it, right? And I was like, wow, I'm actually making progress, and I'm starting to learn people from all different walks of life, different body types, all that. And the third, when I actually got to Minot in 2020, I decided, okay, now I'm going to start my online personal training business. I had recently wanted to get out prior and pursue this, but I didn't know how. Mm-hmm. So moving from in-person training and doing Adobe PDFs and Word documents, I decided, hey, I have a year and a half left before I get out. What can I do in this year and a half that's going to financially support me and do what I love at that point, right? Because I was doing a job that I didn't like for 12 to 15 hours, but I knew instead of, oh, maybe I can get 7-8 hours of sleep, I'd rather get 5 or 6 hours of sleep and do what I love, and then train my mind to say, hey, this is what I want to do. Why go work, 12, 15 hours for not to say the military didn't care about me, but I'm not getting anything back from that. Yeah, and not go home and not put my heart and my energy into something that I actually like doing, which is helping people, and it just so happened I'm helping people in the physical realm, not just and showing people the effects of it. And so when I started to do it, I started to get some really good feedback from people from all over the world. And now, I'm hiring trainers from different walks of life, and and these people have their own niches. And I want to say, hey, I want to help you help other people. Mm-hmm. So like I said earlier, if I have 10 coaches and they have 10 clients, I'm helping 100 people. Mm-hmm. I'm not just doing my thing, right? I'm not just one-on-ones. I'm helping coaches say, hey, over abroad, this is what I want to do. So after about 6 months of actually boosting out my online personal training is when I figured out that I was going to be financially okay if I just got out of the military at that second. Yeah. So I said, hey, and I hit the ground running. I put the boots in the ground and I said, okay, let's do this. And so here we are, over 30 clients deep. I have 4 coaches, and we're just, we're doing our thing. We're creating a community. So that's how I knew, transitioning into civilian world is going to be a change for me, and for the better, of course.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man.
I just want I'm going to do a little tidbit, and then Snapkeep, I want you to tear it up, man. Dude, I'm proud of you, man. I really am. Super
I appreciate
proud of you.
That, man. Bottom of my heart, I do.
The big thing too is that you got out, and instead of doing something for yourself, which typically is what happens, right? People get out and they go, man, screw that. I'm going to go take care of my own. I'm going to go do my own thing. I'm going to go whatever. Mm-hmm. You got out and you are now taking care of other people. You were helping other people. And that physical is also leading into mental, which I know you already know, right? But it's super cool that you're tackling 2 of those primary things, man. A lot of people don't like their physical stature, or just whatever they are in general. And then also bleeding into that mental aspect, right? So for you to be able to you're tackling those 2 with what you do. But I just wanted to put that in. Sorry, Snap, to take your thunder, man.
No worries, man. But you hinted at it a little bit, but talking about mental health and physical health is so much a part of that. And, I know you wanted to touch on it a little bit, mental health as it pertains to, the service and getting out and the struggles therein.
Yeah, man. So like, fighting that mental space is definitely not the easiest thing for anybody to do. I did mental health appointments, and, I was talking to mental health, and I did that for years. I did it for a little over 3.5 years. And every time, I would talk to a new therapist, it was like, well, do you work out? I was like, why is that always the first question? Are you physically active? And I was like, wow, I was like, is it really sitting here talking to someone, or can I sit by myself and lift some weights and then let's see what that does, let's see what that does. And I can tell other people, and other troops that I've had prior, and I'm in, they're asking like, how do I get out of this area? Even talking back to troops and, my supervisors when, we went through what we did in Afghanistan, was like, how did you get through it? Well, I worked out every day. We didn't have therapists. We were in a fob, and we didn't have a whole lot to lean back on, but we had each other and we had the gym, and that's all we needed at that point to come back home. And so, even the battles after that was like, man, what, do we lean towards alcohol? Do we lean towards partying? What are we going to do to fight that mental aspect? And how can we do it together instead of, hey, these are what I'm thinking and this is what you're thinking. It's like, well, why don't we come together and we can sit and we can have an awesome workout, and then we can go and have a beer, but not, and then your whole mind space is completely changed at that point. And everybody in the military, I'm sure the Navy, I mean, if you're doing deployments, 9-10 deployments 4 months at a time, I can only imagine the mental space that you were like taking on, man. That's so much, to be away from home and for people who are family people. And yeah, man, marriage, relationships, settling down, it's hard, man. It's hard to be gone and and to have somebody to be there by your side. And when you only see them 2 months a year, and it's like, it's not something that you can control. So it's like, it hits everybody differently. It really does, and it's not, and, but we can always come back to fitness. And I don't know why, but that was just something that I pushed to people, like, work out. And they're like, I don't know how to. And I'm like, cool. Well, guess what? You have a problem, but I have an answer. I have an answer for it, and I can help you. And that's how we're gonna. That's how we're gonna overcome it. You don't have to tell me your whole story, your whole life story, but I know what I can help you. And I don't have to. I don't have to know what's going on in your head. But eventually, when you clear that space up and you start bringing those barriers down that are in your head, well, now the endless possibilities are you're just unimaginable of what you can do. So
absolutely. And it's so important, and we touched on this in multiple episodes. It's about how important mental health is, and it's such a good change that I'd say probably the last 5 to 10 years, that the stigma on mental health and getting help it's not gone, but it's going away. It's becoming more commonplace. And that's not to say that you have to go see a therapist or you have to go to the doctor and get a diagnosis. It's just being, like, if you're sad and you're like not feeling right, like, it's okay to talk about that. Whether it's like talking with a friend, talking to a family member, just having someone you can talk to when you're not feeling right and you're feeling some type of way, even if you're just bitching about your job or the Red Sox lost this week and now I'm just in the dumps. Whatever. Just being able to talk about what's going on in your life and not just stewing about it is just so important. And and like you're talking about right now is that fitness, and you don't have to be shredded. Just getting some exercise, getting the blood flowing, getting that serotonin release is such a simple way that everyone has access to. Anyone could go for a jog,
yeah, or a walk in the park or something. Get some fresh air. Yeah,
do some jumping jacks. Anything. just get the blood flowing and
go touch grass.
Exactly. Touch grass, and it do so much just to clear your head and make you just like give you a whole new like feeling and get you out of that funk that a lot of people get stuck in. And they feel just stuck in, and they don't see that way out, and they're just like, oh, well, this is just how I am.
Well, dude, speaking of funks, right? We talked about this at some point, and Jake, I'm sure you can probably attest to this. But when I first started working out, I mean, I was like, it was cool. It was right after BMT, right? It was kind of like that. Hey, man, I was doing those. What do they call them? Like 3x8s, where you do like the certain amount of exercises or whatever. Like if you were supposed to get 60 push-ups or whatever you're trying to do by the end of the BMT, you were supposed to do at least like 30 every single day, but 3 times a day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and it helped out, right? But getting out, I was going to the gym, but I just kind of stopped going to the gym because I was like, man, everybody's stronger than me, and it's going to take too long. And, what's the point when I can just be having fun, right? That's kind of my mental headspace I was in. It's kind of like this weird funk of like, I just don't want to be here anymore. I just don't want to be in the gym. I just don't feel like this isn't where I fit in. Now, though, I am in love with the process. I am in love with, first of all, the process of getting to the gym, right? Getting that pre-workout, you're listening to your favorite songs and you're just violent. You know what I'm saying? And then when you get out, now you're listening to like some soft music and you're like, yeah. But that process, but then the process of just the gym in general, I'm in love with the fact that I know right now in this very moment, I am taking care of myself for the future. So in the future, I can look back and go, hey, thanks, my guy. Thanks for doing it. Thanks for starting it. You know what I'm saying? That's what's kept me going. And now built up the discipline, and now it's just kind of like if you don't go to the gym, you're like, why didn't you go? You idiot. And then you're like, you're right, Raj, let me go right now, and then you're on your way to the gym and you're like, wow, man, discipline unlocked, right? But
yeah, man, that discipline when it comes in, I mean, that's what I tell people all the time is like sometimes motivation is not always going to get you there, but discipline will every time. Sometimes, motivation and you think like, oh, I'm motivated right now. You're the most motivated as soon as you finish that workout. But are you going to go home and are you going to, drink a protein shake? Are you going to eat, a lean meat and, greens and stuff? Or are you going to go to McDonald's on the way home or, from your workout? And that's where
sometimes that McDonald's hits.
Sometimes it does. And I'll get that. I'm not the best at my nutrition, right now. But when it comes down to it,
double quarter pounder with cheese.
Yeah, I mean, discipline's gonna get you there every single time. And then once you fight that, what you were saying earlier, how when you're in the gym and you start just to look at everybody else in the gym, and one of the things I express to my clients and my athletes is that I say, don't look at everybody else. And a lot of people have, they go to the gym and they're scared because they don't know what they're doing. Or they don't know exactly if they're hitting their form right, or, they're just embarrassed at that point. Once you get over that barricade and you actually go in there for yourself and you start to say, hey, what are the changes happening to me, not to the changes that are happening around me. And that's when you actually start to realize what discipline is. When you have to get, sit down and say, hey, I did this today and I've done this the past 3 weeks, or the, past 10 days or 5 days, wherever you are at in your journey. If you have that discipline, you can say that's a win. That's a win in my book every day. It's to say, hey, I did this, and not I'm only doing this for that person, or I'm doing it for that person, and you're doing it for yourself. And I think that's the goal in it for sure.
See, and I like that too, because that's something I live by. That's one of my mottos, is being able to go home at the end of the day and saying, I did that, because that's something nobody can take away from you. I have a strong work ethic. I've been working a lot these last 2 days, and it's my off days, man, and I'm going left and right, just tearing it up. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way it should be. And at the end of the day, you're able to sit there and go, I did that. Nobody else. I did it. Right. And I feel like we lost that kind of with this kind of newer generation. I mean, don't get me wrong, man. People work, people do it. But I feel like we lost that kind of love for working, right? That kind of doing a good day's work and going home and saying, yeah, I did a good day's work. And I feel like we need to get back to that, because that's one thing nobody can take away from you. They can take away, hey, man, you didn't do this, or you didn't do that, or you did this wrong. But if you do your best, you go home and you can tell yourself that you did that, right? Now, while you were on the topic, you were talking about the discipline. You were talking about people not wanting to go to the gym because of the way they look, right? I just want to sneak this in there while I'm on the topic, because if somebody's in the same boat, what do you think one of the or what is that you've noticed so far with a lot of your clients? What's the biggest holdback for people to maintain that routine in the gym, or what's holding them back that you think people that you've helped people with?
So I think the biggest thing that people struggle with, I've helped hundreds of people. And I think what they do is that they make working out or fitness and health an option. It's no longer a priority. A lot of people say, well, you work out, good for you, but that's not for me. It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be, it's not for me. It's my health. And this is what's most important. And instead of saying, I have to work out, I tell my clients, say, I get to work out today. Today, I get to work out. Today, I have the opportunity, to get that one less hour of sleep, or put the video games down, or, don't look at the TV today because, or, look at your screen time. How long did you look at, your phone today?
Too long.
Way too long. And it's like, where was your discipline today? And what was your motivation? And if you didn't have any motivation, what was your barricade at that point? Because there's either a barricade or there's discipline. And you got to you got to have that fine line of figuring out, hey, are you going to go to the gym today? And it shouldn't even be a question at that point. It should be, I'm going to the gym today. I have 1, 2, and 3 that I need to get done, but I have to fit in number 1. And you got to make it number 1. You know, I always tell people God first, fitness, and then everything else comes after that. So
there you go, man. Man's got to have a code.
Yeah.
So
Man,
going back to you talking about getting out and starting this venture, but we wanted to touch on the process of getting out and that transition and how you go from I don't want to say everything's done for you, but you kind of your schedule is kind of set for you, and the expectations are already there versus going back to being a real person and kind of laying that path out for yourself and how you kind of make that happen from basically starting from zero all over again.
Yeah, man, that's definitely one of the hardest things is, to have, hey, you got to be doing this every single day, or here's your weekly chores for, and your supervisor says, hey, I need you to do 1, 2, and 3. I need you to do these EPRs. I need you to do these ACAs. I need you to do all this other stuff. And you're like, cool, I'll get it done, and you can get it done in a day and then you're good. Like, okay, well, I'm getting paid either way. Whereas if now in the civilian world, it's like, well, how hard are you going to work to get what you want and to live the way that you want to live? It's a little bit different being a business owner, whereas if somebody can leave the military and go straight into another workforce because now they have everything that they're supposed to, right? And if they go into another workforce, it's like, okay, well, now you're back at square one. And I'm not saying that it's any worse or any better. All I'm saying is that you went from working from one boss to the next boss, and now you have that way of living, and that's the way you want to do it. Maybe it's what you love, and congrats to you for that. But when it comes down to like being a business owner and saying, hey, if I don't work today and I don't do these specific points today, I don't get paid. When on the 1st and 15th and those checks aren't coming in anymore, that's one of the biggest shocks that I had to me, because I had 9 years of consistently 1st and 15th getting those paychecks, and then it was easy for me because it was like, I know I'm going to get paid whether I decide to do CPRs or not, and now that I have to work to do something, it's like a little bit different, because it's like, if I don't do this, I won't get this, and it's definitely one of those headspaces of you have to manage your time correctly. Now that you have the freedom to manage your time, how are you going to do it? And what is your definition of success? What do you want to do? What's your next step? What's your next move?
Absolutely. And that was probably some of my struggles, because when I was getting out, I didn't have a lot of big aspirations where I was like, I know exactly what I want to go to school for, and I'm going to be a doctor, or I'm going to I'm going to join the police academy. I didn't have those big aspirations. It was kind of just like, I'm going to put the feelers out and see what comes back, and put them out, and I got a couple things. Maybe it was like I didn't really feel any strong way one way or the other, and like some more time passes. You start doing your appointments. You're like going through all those check sheets of like, all right, this is the things I got to get done. And you're just kind of going through the process, and you just watching that deadline just creep towards you, and it's stressful,
hard, man. Yeah, it's tough.
And it's such a poorly, maybe, I don't know if it's handled a little better in the Air Force, but I have never seen anyone get out of the Navy well. It's always a mess. There's always something gets dropped or gets missed. No one, even people who have done the process, still couldn't give you like, this is how you do it. I did it a couple months ago. I couldn't tell you how to do it, because it's such a messy process that no one has the answer. And like you'll look online and they'll be like, all right, these are all the things that you need to do. And then you'll look at a different list that's supposed to be the exact same thing, and half of it's different. And there's just no quick and easy guide to navigating out of the service, which makes it even harder than it already is to make that life transition. Which is why I've seen so many people get scared of transitioning, because they've been in, maybe they've been in 5 years, maybe they've been 15 years, and they see that, they don't see it as like the light at the end of the tunnel. They see it as like the uncertainty of it, and like, I'm going to get out and I'm going to be homeless, and I'm going to be living on the streets. I'm not going to have a job. And they freak out and they re-enlist. And then, which again, there's nothing wrong with serving 20, 30, however many years, but at some point you have to make that transition. And there's never a wrong time to look at things and try to make those preparations. Even if you're like at the 6 year point, and you're like, maybe I'll do 10, maybe I'll do 20. But before I get out, these are the things I want to get out of it, which goes back to the whole, do you want to do schooling? Do you want to use your TA? Things like that. And make sure you get everything out of the service that you want to set yourself up for when you decide, you know what, I think this is it for me. I think at the end of this contract, I'm going to be done and I'm going to go do X, or I'm going to go to school, or move back home and work at the steel mill, whatever the case may be. Setting yourself up for success so that you don't see it as a negative to get out. It's just a different opportunity.
Agreed.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that. Just having kind of like a plan, because that's something I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get out or not. I kind of want to stay in, but if I could have it my way, I'd probably get out. But at the same time, I really do enjoy what I do, right? And now that I'm really learning how to actually be LE, not somebody who sits and stares at shit for 12 hours a day, it's really cool. I like the gig. I like being a police officer. I don't care what anybody says. I think it's a great job when you do it for what it's supposed to be done for, when you actually protect and serve, right? We can run over all that stuff all day. But doing it the right way is a really good gig, because you get to really be that presence. And then at the same time, you can be that community policing at the same time. Like, look, man, that's why I pulled you over. Let's just not do that. Okay. That's very, that can lead to something very unsafe, right? Because if you slowly roll through a stop sign, I don't know, me personally, when I look at that, there's no intent for you to be like, hey man, I don't care about your traffic signals and crap, man. I don't care. But if you blow through a stop sign, if you're going 20 over in a freaking school zone, there's stuff like that. And it's really cool, because when you're actually able to be there to mitigate that or shut that shit down when it's happening, you know what I'm saying? Because being a presence, man, people definitely slow down. Let me tell you, it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. But being able to be a part of that is really cool. Now, I obviously have a lot to learn, so don't think I'm talking here acting like I'm some professional cop. No, I still have a lot more to learn. But I can tell you right now, and I think that's good for me, but being able to go somewhere new, but then actually be very invested in whatever you're learning, which is making everything infinitely easier for me, because there's so much that I'm trying to tack on at the same time right now. But since I love it, I just love it. And I'm not even lying to you when I say this. I freaking love it. It's just fun, man. It's sweet. I'm like, yo, let's go. I want to be a cop. I want to do it right, But yeah, back to the setting yourself up for being able to get out and be comfortable. And that's definitely more difficult than people let it to be. Well, make sure you have a plan. Make sure you're going to go do this. And it's like, okay, but once you really start thinking about it, you're like, holy shit. What am I going to do when I don't wake up at 0600 sharp to go to PT, and then I'm being told, hey, man, this is what we're going to be doing all day. Tracking, that's what I'm talking about. Now you wake up and you're like, because that's how I feel on my off days. And I guarantee you that's probably similar to how you guys felt when you guys got out. I can't attest to it because I'm not out myself. But there's some off days, or when I was on leave for 1 month, dude, near the end of that month, I was like, okay, man, I need to work. I need to do something, So I can't even imagine. But that's my little 2 cents. Snap, do your thing.
I mean, coming off of that, right? Oh, go ahead.
No,
go off. Yeah.
No, like you said, so like you were on leave and you didn't know what to do. You didn't know what to do with your fingers, but yet here you are hosting a podcast. And I always tell people never put all your eggs in one basket. Mm-hmm. If you're out and about and you're in the military and you're active duty, right? And let's say you are possibly thinking like, what are your options? They always have your options open. Always have a different egg in a different basket, and say, hey, what are my options here? Am I really happy at this point? In my career when it was ending, and a lot of people are saying, man, you're 9 years, you're almost halfway. You can retire in 11 years, and I'm like,
you're almost halfway.
Yeah, and I'm like, you do realize that's 11 years, right? I was like, that's not something that's like, oh, you got 2 months, go ahead, just do it. It's not, and you don't just do 11 years, it's not, that's not something that you do. And so, I've always had, different incomes, several incomes, just because I have to say, what do I really love? And what, and maybe you're doing this podcast thing, and maybe you fall out of it. Maybe you don't like to do it anymore or something, and I've done several things in my past and I was just like, this just isn't for me. And then I was good at it. I was really good at certain things that I enjoyed, but and when it came down to it, I wasn't disciplined. And I know if I'm not disciplined in something, then my heart's not there. And if my heart's not there and I'm not there, I'm not going to be there with it.
Yeah, I like that you say that, because that's exactly how I felt about making music, man. I'm always in and out of it, but man, that sucker be reeling me back in every now and then. Let me tell you. But yeah, I feel you, man. I like that you said that.
Snap, did you have something to say? I know you were talking there.
So you talked about outsourcing. So what kind of maybe resources or like avenues did you have any, like maybe it was personal relationships, or was there anything like a network that you used to outsource to try to to get where you needed to get when you were separating?
Yeah, man. So I talked to a lot of people, when I was getting out, just because I knew other people that had recently got out, being in for, that amount of long of time. People come and go, people are PCSing, people are getting out, and they're going to school, or maybe they're not doing so well. And, I'll talk to those guys as well, that people who aren't doing well. Hey, where did you go wrong? What happened to you that you're not doing so well right now? And then I also talk to the successful people and say, where did you go right? And was there any barricades that you had that I may come upon? And how did you fight it? And how can I fight it? And so there were just certain things that I knew that I had to get to, certain financial caps that I knew I had to reach and that I could feel comfortable with and know that I can hold on to, dependent on my work ethic, of course. And I just had to make sure that, if I'm not networking, if I'm not talking to people, if I'm not going out and getting my name out there and doing what I need to, that I'm not going to be successful. And anytime that I would gain any information, I would automatically pass it off to as many people as I knew. And I would say, hey, we had, in the TRF dorm, we had a day room. Hey, day room right now. Everybody get to the day room. And it was just like a big room full of couches. And we'd sit there and have, a 10, 15-minute meeting. And I'd say, hey, we'd have a meeting, and I'd be like, hey, I have this piece of information. If you guys want to stick back for it, it'll probably take me 10 minutes to explain what's going on. And then, but if you just don't care, then you're more than free to go to the gym. It's your free time. Enjoy yourself. We'll see you back tomorrow. And more than half of the guys would sit back and be like, hey, whatever you got to say, like what's going on? And I'm like, hey, you guys know I'm on the transition going out. This is what I learned. So if you guys are in that transition, or you're thinking about the transition, or maybe you're not even thinking about it at all, but it's an option and something available to you. And then I found it as my calling to say, why would I keep it to myself when I can let these guys know, these younger kids know, and maybe they don't have to get to that 9-year mark before they got out. Maybe they can get their 4-year mark, and another 5 years of that time, that little piece of information that I gave them that energy to get out, gave them energy to do what they actually wanted to do instead of do the 5 years of a job that I didn't enjoy. You know what I'm saying? So I had to push that out to them. I had to resource out. I had to talk to other people. But I never kept it to myself. I always helped as many people as I could in that realm as well.
Yeah, my biggest piece of advice that I try to tell people is, when it comes to, the military is smaller than people think. Like, obviously, there's so much money in it, there's so many people, but like, really, it's a pretty small community. And like, especially like within like your specific field, and you go from place to place, you're gonna see those same faces over again. Mm-hmm. So my biggest advice is, one, even if you hate someone and they're the worst person, don't burn bridges. Just don't interact with that person and try to space from them, but don't burn bridges. Because like, there was a guy that I couldn't stand. He was so annoying. He was pretty pretentious. He was not at all my cup of tea. And maybe it was just where he was in his life at the time, or just our dynamic in our workspace, whatever. We're both out now. He's a headhunter in a company, and I almost took a job that he threw my way.
Wow.
And the other piece of advice that I would say is LinkedIn. Everybody's on LinkedIn now. Yeah. Get on LinkedIn.
Dude, I'm glad you said the Air Force will pay for a full year of LinkedIn Pro for you.
Yep. Most branches are doing that. Yeah.
Yep.
What? That's hey.
Yeah,
Guess who might
you
take that? Because I kind of want to
Goodyear
get into voice
AFRC
acting.
Center.
yeah. When
Wow.
you get close to getting out, when you're a few months out, that's
Yeah.
about when you want to put in for that, because that way it overlaps. So like you can start doing that job search and all that networking,
Mm-hmm.
and get that little more thoroughness to the like extra profile,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and that overlaps also 8-9 months after you get out too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
man. Because I kind
definitely
of
use
want
that.
to. I want to dabble in the voice acting world. I want to give it a shot, because I mean, here I am, right, talking because I don't know how to fucking not talk a lot, right? So I kind of want to, I want to put that to use. I want to try to do some voice acting, have some fun with it. And, the dream, dude, the dream would to do, especially something even animated, dude, like some kind of like animated zombie thing. But obviously, I'm a big fan of The Walking Dead, right? Live and die by that show. But something like that, or like a zombie video game, being able to voice a character. Because you look at some of these other characters for video games, and I kind of want to cut into video games here in a second. But like Red Dead Redemption, right? You look at Arthur, and you start looking at these characters, and you're like, this is really cool, man. There's like this really like strong connection to some of these characters, and it'd just be so cool to be given the opportunity to successfully do that someday. And I feel like I have kind of like the energy. Also, the conversation you guys are having prior to that, I know I went to go get some more water because my throat be getting dry. Finally stopped drinking soda though, and I think I'm going to keep going, especially this whole next month. I'm going to go absolutely no soda. So we'll see how that goes. But watch tomorrow. I'm probably going to be drinking Mountain Dew, but hopefully not. I'm just kidding. I don't even drink that. But you're talking about the whole reaching out to people, right? Outsourcing, kind of figuring out, hey man, I know you went through this. What helped you through that? And I think we've kind of a lot of people have lost sight of that, kind of reaching out to people who have been through something that you're going through and being able to be humble enough to say, hey, man, what helped you through this? And how can I get through this successfully too? I think the biggest thing that I can use for like an example like this was somebody that I was in a relationship with. And I would ask other people that have been in relationships that were relative to what we were going through and kind of, especially long distance, kind of ask them, hey, man, how did this work for you? What did you do? And they'll be like, well, we used fucking, first of all, communication, as long as you communicate, stuff like that, right? And I always think it's just kind of funny because, that individual is older than me, right? But it's like one of those things like, how do you know this? And I'm like, well, because I talk to people and I want to succeed here in life. I don't want to just go knee deep into something and not know what I'm doing because there's really no need for that. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes, hey man, let me just jump right into the deep end, give it a shot. But no, man, it's always better to be able to come into something prepared so you can really handle that situation. At least I feel, right? But you talked about earlier, you were talking about going back to the dorms. And you're like, we can go back to the dorms. We'll be on the game. What kind of games do you play? Since this does have something to do with gaming as far as the podcast goes.
Myself? Oh, gaming.
Yeah, sorry,
oh,
Jake.
Man,
you,
gaming,
my
man,
friend. Yeah,
I don't
you.
even like to classify myself as a gamer, man. I mean, I do like to, your Call of Duties. I think one of my favorite games ever was Destiny 2. That's probably like one of my favorite games overall. I was a console player, PS4. I had it forever.
Whack, but cool.
Instead of going PS5, I ended up building my own PC. And so now I'm a PC gamer. But don't ask me what games I play because I literally just downloaded Call of Duty, Cold War, Warzone, and Vanguard. And that's what I play.
Wait,
man.
you shut that shit down, dude. I'm so sad about Vanguard. But okay, so how are you feeling about Modern Warfare 2? Have you been seeing this stuff?
I've seen it a little bit. It has my eye.
Hyped.
I'm definitely gonna get it. So we're gonna see when it comes out. I'll try out the beta, see how that is.
Yeah.
I'm already buying the extension packs and stuff. So
hey, okay.
I only play if I'm invited. I would never just go play like myself. I don't. That's just me. That's why I won't categorize myself as a gamer. Just because I'm just people are like, oh, what are your frames at right now? And I'm like, I don't know.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
I have like 3 pictures on the wall. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I'm still new to the PC world, so getting a hang of it. But I mean, I like playing on the big screen. I like playing, with the fancy equipment and switching stuff back and forth. A lot of my buddies, they're like, hey, we'll do this to your computer. It'll help you a whole lot. So I'm just like, all right, cool. And I just do what they say. I don't really know what it means.
I think a ton of people, when the newest generation of consoles came out, be it the new Xbox or the PS5, I think so many people didn't get them, and it actually pushed a lot of people to get PCs, both because of the price gap and because of how unavailable they were for so long. People were just
So
like,
long.
well, why don't I just make a PC? I have a buddy who's got a PC, so why don't I just get a PC now? And because like
Yeah.
I want something new, and they just like instead of spending $600-700 on that, they just spend it over here, and now they'll just never get a console again. And they kind of
What is
a lot of these companies shot themselves in the foot with their supply not being able to meet demand at the get go.
Yeah. Did you see too in like 7 other countries, man, they raised the PS5 from 500 to 599?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Like, man, dude,
Unreal.
yeah. In like countries too where people are like, why are you doing that here? Like, really? Like, not a lot of us are buying this to begin with. So I was just kind of like, that's very interesting, man. It's a real weird time. But I myself just finally got a nice PC. I got a little iBuy Power from Walmart, but it had great specs. I mean, I was running a laptop with like a 2060 GeForce graphics card, and now I'm up at like a 3060, and I'm losing my fucking mind. Dude, I'm going to tell you something, okay? Look, 2010, right? I had a little Asus Acer laptop. I mean, like, hey, man, use this for, type in Google Docs and that's it. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm sitting there trying to play like Black Ops on it, dude. Black Ops 1. We're talking classic Black Ops, little Nazi zombies and everything. And my game's going, but I'm like, I'm playing, yo, this is cool. Like, I'm having a good time. And then I get this new laptop, man, when I came back from the deployment in 2020. It was a Asus Rogue. Yeah, Asus Rogue. And same thing, man. I was able to play some games. But the ones that I wanted to play, I'd get on there and I'd be super hyped. And I'm like, I can't wait, man. I've been waiting for this moment. And I'm like, what, man? What? But I got this beautiful PC. And it was weird. It was one of those things where, like, I don't know if you remember getting like that one specific Christmas gift, that you were like, holy shit. Like when I got onto the games that I wanted to play and was able to play them smoothly, it was like one of those, like, some people just don't understand, man. They don't, the beauty, just being able to get on and be like, oh, you're like, this is amazing.
The first time you used the internet and it wasn't dial up.
Hey, there you go. Well, see, look, I'm young, so I'm going to
Oh,
pretend like I know what you're talking about. But yeah, exactly, dude. Or like when you went to the iPhone 3 from like I was sitting with an LG Cosmos. I had my little slide up text, little tiny screen. And then you get that iPhone 3 and you're like, holy mother, dude. It just loses you in your mind. Well, what do you got, Jake? You got anything for us? Let's give us some words of advice, man. Give me whatever comes to your mind right now, and then plug yourself at the end of that.
I mean, we've talked about a lot of different things, and we've heard about all different military side, and what you got work side. Maybe anything on the more personal side. Maybe you want to share, and.
Man, as far as like personal stuff, I mean, the biggest thing I would say is, communication with yourself, being in tune with yourself, and some things are okay to do, for yourself, and just say, hey, this is not for everybody, and this is for me right now. And just be, overall positive on life as an aspect. You have a life, so do something with it. Try not, if you're comfortable living with the bare minimum, then cool. But if you feel like you have something greater and you feel like you can offer, your life something a little bit more higher than the average American, you have so many opportunities and so many things ahead of you, that you can do. So never slow down. Keep going. Work hard. You can never work hard enough. I'm gonna say that you can never work hard enough. There's always something else that you can do. There's always more that you can do, and there's always somebody else that is looking up to you. And you may not know it. You may not see it, but someone is looking up to you 24/7. They look at your everyday move, whether it's a kid or maybe it's a grown adult that that sees where you're at and wants to be exactly where you are. And it's your job to don't disappoint them. And maybe that person is your younger self. Maybe your younger self is looking at you and saying, man, I never thought I'd be here. I never thought that what I went through in my life that I would be where I am today. And I see that as success in its own, whether you're super far along in building a company, or even just, having a family and saying and providing for them, and you're that adult now, and you're that person that's in charge, and you just have to keep pushing. And like I said, you can always work harder, you can always do something more. And if you can't, and you feel like you're not in that mental space, then reach out to somebody and say, hey, what can I do? Because sometimes it's all about asking the right questions. And that's how the people are successful. They just ask the right questions, not how many you ask. It's the quality of what you ask. So.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Mike, I know you're gonna like this. I'm gonna plug the recurring theme that keeps popping up in our episodes. It's important that everyone, you got to find your joy in your life, whatever it is, whether it's the job that you work, or it's the games you play. It's going fishing on the weekends. You got that jet ski you like taking out every couple weeks. Whatever it is, you got to find that joy in your life and do whatever it is you need to do to get to that.
And I'm gonna finish that sandwich too, man. It's not hustle, it's not grind. It is full engagement, and it is finding joy. There's a third piece to that puzzle too, but that piece, I guess, didn't stick with me as much as those two did. I think those two are more important anyways. Full engagement and finding joy. Also, dude, before we even do anything else, man, can you talk about this charcuterie board of patches you got going on up there, dude?
Oh, back here? Yeah, it's kind of like my backdrop,
man. Yeah, man. Let's talk about it since it's there.
So I kind of categorized it. I have all the flags that I wore in every country over there on the top left. And so it kind of moves over to the different name tapes. Of course, we're in ABUs, and then I switched over. And then I worked the NATO agreement in Afghanistan, so I switched over to that. I have my name in Arabic, from the locals out there. And then here on this row, going up, is all the job titles that I had since being in. And so, when I came into the Air Force, we were in ABU, so we didn't have patches. But as soon as I got downrange, they gave us OCPs, and then that's when I just started collecting a whole bunch of them. I probably have a whole another sheet full. I just haven't gotten another one to get after it. But I mean, yeah, over here on the right is going to be all the squadrons that I was a part of or worked with. So if I ever went on a mission with you, ever seen you downrange, or we did something together at another station, then I would trade patches with you. So I had a patch. I always kept 2 or 3 in my left side, and I would, be like, hey man, what would it cost for me to take that patch off your arm? And then I'd pull out one of my patches, and I'd be like, hey, this is from my squadron that I'm a part of at the moment. And so I just started doing that, and it became a full hobby throughout my career. So
very cool.
There's something from every country that I've been to, and every job that I've done is on this wall. So I keep it behind me just so I always remember. If I have my phone and I'm looking behind me, I'm like, wow, you did all that. Cool. With this in front of you is nothing compared to what you've done. So,
all right. No, and since we're here right now, man, we haven't done this yet, but since I'm going to take this opportunity to do it. But if you have a patch on that, do you have a patch there with like the strongest story, or do you have a patch up there that means more to you than any of the other patches? Then Snap, I'm going to ask you the same question. And if you do, I want you to get it, because I kind of want to get mine too, and we can all kind of share our stories. Sound like a deal?
Yeah, let me see. I can.
Okay.
That might be pretty easy, actually. Let's see.
All right. While you're finding it, I want to get mine. Mine's actually going to end up being a badge, though. A badge for a beret.
I'll take down 2 because they go hand in hand. So
right.
I'll switch it on over. Did you ever patch collect when you were in?
No, not really. Especially like you said, with the changing of uniforms, and like certain ones that just weren't applicable for certain the uniforms that we would wear, because I worked down in engineering spaces. Like our uniform on the day-to-day didn't have patches. So it was very uncommon for us to wear the uniforms that would have patches. So it was almost like if I did collect patches, I would just never see them. It was just never ever been worn.
Yeah. No, I get that. So I'll start off with the first one that I have here. So this is the one this is our squadron patch.
Okay.
And so this one, well, we would always wear it on our shoulder, right? So anytime we wore this, everybody knew who we were.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I was on a security detail. I was protecting one of our Fulberg colonels outside the wire, and I was like his personal security guard. I was the A1C. I've maybe been in for maybe 8 months at that time, so I don't really know a whole lot, but I had enough of training to be there, right? And so that'll bring me to my next patch. So there's this one here. So this is what the Fulberg colonel of the Kabul or the Afghanistan Army. So this is the Afghanistan Army and Air Force. They're still kind of together. But what had happened was they were having some kind of like secret op meeting between the colonels, right? And they were talking back and forth. Some individuals came up. I was on the outside, and they were like, they pretty much had me at gunpoint. They're like, if you don't let us in there, we're just gonna take care of business at that point. And so we had like a little secret knock that I hit. And I did it, took care of everybody, and find out that Taliban had hired those guys to come in and pretty much take out my guy at that point. And so the colonel equivalent to the guy that was in there gave me his patch. He was talking with his translator at the same time. And like I'm A1C, it was maybe my third mission that I had been on. And I just, it was like an instinct. And, I was like, man, I saved someone's life today, and I didn't realize I was just doing my job. That's all I was doing. He like pulled off his patch and he handed it to me. And so I pulled off my patch and I handed it to him.
Yeah.
He was almost in tears at that point. And it was weird just to see someone else that, whose country is in hell right now, between, and just going through hellfire. And for someone to almost be in tears and be like, you saved my life today. And this is what I can do to be grateful, is just give you my patch. And so that's why I kind of started patch collecting. It's like one of my first ones. So it's pretty crazy.
Cool way to kick it off, man.
It's
a great reason to start patch collecting. You're like, this was such a cool experience. Wonder what else I can collect and other like stories that go along with these other patches.
Yeah,
man. Snap. What? No, go.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say, Mike, Snap. What do you got for us, man?
Mike, I gotta relate to you. Like, my job is the day-to-day maintenance. You know what I mean? I've seen less daylight than the patches on that wall in my time when I was in.
Okay. All right. I mean, do you got any stories? Like, did you guys ever dock anywhere other than like your standard, like at I guess the continental United States? You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, I got port stories from damn near every country in Asia other than like Thailand and India. Every other coastal country I've docked at one point or another. But nothing is too crazy. Docked or anchored off the coast.
I'm making a fucking disgusting joke. I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's all good. I was not to say a crazy story, but I remember things got a little hectic at one point. It would have been, oh gosh, I want to say 2017, maybe 2016. We're doing some typical flight ops, launching jets, doing our rounds out probably, I want to say South China Sea area. And we had some Russian fighters that were like doing the rounds just back and forth like in our airspace, and called everybody back, and we just kind of like flipped a bitch and just kind of chased them for a day and a half.
Damn.
It was,
yeah.
Well, it was just because like we're kind of like we're going, but we're like we still have to kind of like stay in our operating area, so we're just like, all right, like kind of chasing them back to point of origin. So we're like launching jets, and they're coming, like, one after another, come back to refuel. The next one's going out, and just making sure whatever they were doing, they went back.
Okay,
stuff like that. And on occasion, the only other thing that we ever really do that's noticeable from like a day-to-day standpoint, because obviously there's always the big mission, you know what I mean, but like they'll do the really cheesy stuff when like there's not anything big going on. They'll coordinate with like other militaries, other navies and stuff like that, and you'll see those photo ops of like the ships on the ocean, and you'll see them whenever they play like a movie theater or something, and it's like,
Yeah.
the military, and it's like
Look at
all like
us. Yeah.
the pan shots. So there's like a guy in a helicopter taking a rolling shot of like a
Yeah.
bunch of ships like sailing, and it's the cheesiest thing, but it's like it's so much goes into that coordination that's like so dumb, but like
No,
I bet.
that's cool. I like that.
I know. Yeah, I
it's like
bet.
it's
But then at
cool
the
when you
end, you have the
see it,
product.
but you think about it like on the boots on the ground type situation, you're
Yeah, you're like,
like
this ain't
you're
that serious.
telling me that like we're running our engines at like this speed and all this stuff just so you could take some pictures.
Yeah.
It's like it seems dumb on the little level. Like obviously the end result looks cool, and like it, and to the people who aren't involved, like on the civilian side, they're like, "Oh, that's so cool," seeing all the ships and like the jets flying, and all that kind of stuff. So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's cooler from the outside than it is from the inside. Like most things.
No. Yeah. For guaranteed. All right, so I'm gonna share. I'm gonna share my story, and then Jake, I want you to plug yourself on the way out. Let us know where we can find Rod Squad and everything like that, and then feel free to head out. I know you got places to be, and then me and Jake or me and Snap are gonna take off the rest of the show and end it off. So this right here, if I can get it good. So this
go.
is from, I was in Niger, right? Because as soon as I tell you who it's from, you're going to understand where I was. But so the fan is what they're called. It's the Nigerian army. We used to have a cat that would come through all the time. And the only few things he could say was one, I fucking love America. And then a couple like other things. But he would come through drunk all the time. And we would be sitting in this Connex box, which we called like our search area, right? And my job was a badger. I'd actually, I would wand people, and then I would put them into the biometric system, kind of figure out who they were and if they were tied to, people that don't like us that much. But he would come through every night, drunk as a skunk. Then he'd be like, I love America. America, I love America. You guys are so cool. Like, we're like, hey, appreciate you, but get the fuck out of here. But thank you. Like, yeah. And it just became like a real recurring thing. And we got to the point where like, dude, when's he gonna come, bro? When's he gonna come? Is it now? And he would come and he'd be like, hey, and it would be like this really cool thing, right? But one day he gave this to us. Oh man, I want to probably get emotional here in a second. So he gives this to us, right? Oh man, yeah, okay. And he came through a couple more times, and then he just stopped coming. We were like, "What's going on, man? What's the deal?" And I think like a week later, we found out he got deployed into the lower portion of Niger, and he got killed, man. He got killed, and that's like an everyday occurrence for the Nigerian army because they just recruit, young. And yeah, man, this is like the greatest thing. I think like I got in my arsenal, man. And the only other thing I'll ever talk about, not gloat about, but even speak of, because I don't care about medals or anything, was getting the Elizabeth Jacobson Award for expeditionary excellence out of that deployment. Just because, I take care of my own, I take care of my people. I try to give this energy to everybody and anybody, right? So that's my thing, man. So that wraps up that story. Jake, I want you to tell us where we can find Rod Squad, man. I want you to plug yourself, and yeah, floor is yours.
Well, hey, man, that story is very touching, man. I have similar stories to that as well. With something that you can't put a price tag on, and your story means the most to you. But for someone myself that kind of knows what you're, the aspect of what happened, and these patches are, a lot of these have so many stories that, people was asking me, hey man, why don't you write a book? I was like, nope, that stays right here, man. That stays right here.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But no, awesome story, man. That's great. And congrats to you on the Elizabeth Jacobson. That's a huge deal for people who are not in the military or Air Force that knows about that. That's a huge award that not a whole lot of people get. But other than that, as far as like social media and stuff, Rod Squad Training, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, so just reach out on social media, probably your best bet. I control all of the social media top platforms. So if you guys are interested in any kind of training, or if you just need to spark up on your fitness journey, hit me up. We can hop. I do free phone calls all the time, all day. If you just don't know where to start, we can hop on a phone call and I can help you completely for free. I'm not trying to sell you anything. But yeah, so that's pretty much all I had. I appreciate you having me on, man. Snap, it was awesome meeting you, man. You're a good guy. Keep doing good things and helping people, man. And Kelly, it was great. It was great talking to you again, brother.
Yeah, man. I thank you for taking the time out of your day, man, to come on. I definitely wanted to bring you on here because you're like we said earlier, man, you're doing things for people when you got out. And that's a big thing for me too. And for anybody who even wants to even think about it, as far as why I bring people onto this show, it's people who do things for other people and for the kindness and want to build. So I love it, man. I love everything you're doing, man. But get out of here. I know you got to
Yeah.
go, man,
All
but
right,
thank you.
brother.
Thank
All
you.
right, brother. Y'all, peace out. Talk to y'all later.
Yes, sir.
Take it easy.
All right, so I'm gonna adjust this real quick so we can look at this. Ooh, look at me and you go on this little background. Hey, okay, look, Snap, man. Hey, man, how you doing? How was the move? How did the move treat you?
It was crazy. If I have to plug someone about this process, I have to
Yeah.
plug my wife. Oh my God, she did so much because maybe I traveled out of here for work and I got
Mm,
stuck because of COVID, and she got some family together. She packed up our stuff, and I kid you not, drove from one coast to the other with our kids and our pets in the car, just end to end, just did it
damn.
herself, and she's just so amazing. I'm so lucky to have her. She's
Yeah.
such a strong, amazing woman. Puts up with me obviously, and
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
it's just so amazing. And everyone's here, everyone's safe, and obviously we still got boxes everywhere, but I
Mm.
mean, we're here, and that's the important thing. Everything else will come in due time. But
Yeah,
we're
and
here, and
you got there safely, which is, the most important part, especially for me too, making sure that you got there safe, man. And now you're back, man. We're ready, we're rolling, we're ready to tear it up with the smoke pit, man. Big future ahead.
absolutely.
And people are enjoying. And on that topic, we do appreciate every single one of you that tune into the show, that watch, that download. I see the downloads. So it's incredible for everybody that's reaching in. Hey, man, before we cut the show off, Snap, I want you to give us something wise, man. Give us some wise advice. Give me a nice little quote or something that you got, man, and then we'll shut it out.
All right, well, let's take it back to something we talked about earlier. You
Hey,
touched on a hard day's work, and
ah,
whether it's at your job, it's going to the gym, it's you know whatever it is that you're doing in the day, you know you don't have to be sweating your ass off in a workshop or something like that, or you don't have to be the guy that shows up 2 hours early and 2 hours late. You need to, whatever it is you're doing, make sure at the end of the day, when you finally get home and you sit down, that you're not lying to yourself. Like, I did it today.
yeah,
Whatever that it is, whether it's I did my job, or I got my sets in today, or I ran those 2 miles that I wanted to run this morning. I made sure that my kids got to school on time and they got picked up on time, and you know dinner was ready. Everything is everything that needed to be where it was there because I did it. I made the things happen today, and you can take that sense of accomplishment and even the small things, and
yeah.
it's just so important that you can get that confidence in yourself in the things that you do on a day to day, because everything matters. There's no little thing that's inconsequential. You have an impact on the people around you, be it small, be it big. Like, just make sure that when you do whatever it is that you do, you give it your 100%.
Hey, reminds me of there's no such thing as too small, right?
Yeah.
And like our E7s like to infamously say, to piggyback off of what the commander said,
Oh,
uh, also take
start
care of
doing that, we'll
yourself.
be here all day.
Yeah, right. Take care of yourself, man. Health is wealth. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at me. I'm just feeling good, right? I'm able to look in the mirror and I finally look at myself and go, man, like, look at you, man. You're doing it. Like you're finally doing it. So if you find yourself struggling with the gym, like get in it. Anybody listen to this, get in it. Just do it. Start doing it. Build that discipline and take care of it. But do it for you. You do it for you. But like I said, take care of yourself. Health is wealth. Okay. You take care of your body will take care of you. That's why our main topic of this show was a gym related topics. I love what Jake is doing over there. So this is a good episode. This is a good episode. Snap, do you got any last comments?
Uh, probably the last thing I probably want to leave people with is, be safe. It's still a pretty crazy world out there. A lot of stuff going on in the news, craziness, be it politics, police, whatever. Just be smart, be safe.
Hey, yeah. Hey, have a safe weekend. Don't add or subtract from the population.
Exactly.
Yeah. Some cats are gonna, yeah. If you go into jail, establish dominance quickly. Yeah. Oh yeah. Some of our audience is gonna love that shit.
The classic sign off.
Yeah, man. Well, all right. Hey, look, everybody who's attended this episode, we appreciate you guys if you've made it this far, especially. Glad to have Snap back. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. We're bringing snack packs back. It's going to be good, man. Future's bright. So we're incredibly excited. So we're going to thank our sponsors real quick. G Fuel, Gamer Paradox, and of course, Gamer Advantage and Paradox. I just combined them both together. Why not, right? Appreciate y'all for being along for the journey. And of course, our special thank you to Stack Up for everything that they're doing for the veterans, for people that are in need, the people that are deployed, setting up supply crates and everything. But our missions have correlated together and we have combined to be just a freaking unstoppable force for everybody who served or who currently serves and many alike, right? So appreciate you for being here on this journey with us. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode, everybody, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.